Hello, and welcome to the first intermediate violin lesson here on Positive Notes. Today we will be working on this piece called Minuet No. 2 by Bach. And this is what I would consider an early intermediate piece. A lot of people learn this piece in either their first or second year playing violin, which is what I did. So if you want to print out this sheet music, you can do so by downloading the PDF version at the link below. So before we get started with playing, we have to look at what we are given in the beginning of the piece. And that includes the key signature, the time signature, the dynamic, and the tempo. So this piece is obviously in G major, which you could probably tell by looking at the title, which says Minuet in G major. But you can also find this out by seeing that there is one sharp in the key signature in the beginning of every line. So that sharp is F sharp, and G major also has one sharp. So before you play any piece, it's a good idea to play the scale of the key that the piece is in. So since this piece is in G major, I would recommend you play a G major scale. And I'm going to play it for you right now in 2 octaves. So next we look at the time signature, and this piece is in 3/4. So this tells you that there's going to be 3 beats per measure, which is given by the top number, and then the quarter note is going to get 1 beat. So that's the bottom number. So, and if you didn't know, a minuet is a dance, and like most dances, it's almost always in 3/4. So next we look at the dynamic. The dynamic in the beginning is piano, which means soft. And a tip for playing piano or soft on the violin is to move your bow closer to the fingerboard when you play, so that the sound that comes out is more muted or softer. So finally, we look at the tempo. So here it says moderato, which means moderately. And there's also a metronome marking, which says quarter equals 96. And this is what your final tempo should be around. It can be slower or maybe even a little faster, but this is only recommended. And when you first start practicing this piece, you should definitely practice it very slowly and with a metronome. But after you've learned all the notes and everything, then you can slowly speed it up. So I will play for you the first 3 lines of this piece without the repeat. So if you didn't know, the composer here is Bach, and Bach was a Baroque era composer. So in this style, your bows should be somewhat detached. And what you do is that you stop your bow on all notes that are a quarter note or longer. So it should only be slightly, so you don't want to put a giant rest after your notes. So we start off with this symbol. It means you're going to start down bow. And in the first measure, there's going to be a bunch of string crossings. Make sure that when you're practicing this carefully and slowly, so that your bow does not hit any of the strings when you're playing the string crossings. So here we have 2 notes that are slurred, but with staccato dots. So this is a hook bowing, and what this means is that you're going to play these 2 notes both up bow, but you're going to play them detached. So they should sound like you're playing it with 2 different bows, but it's not. I'm going to play that for you right now. You would normally play 2 separate bows like this, but for this, since it's a hook bowing, we're going to play these two notes like this. So after that, you have two E's, and you can use open E or fourth finger E. It doesn't matter as long as you're playing the E. But I like to use open E to avoid using string crossings. And the next two measures are basically the same. So here we get to a new dynamic, which is forte. And forte is an Italian word meaning strong. And in music that means loud. So when you're playing a forte, you should move your bow closer to the bridge and away from the fingerboard. You should also use more bow, because when you use more bow, it's going to be naturally louder. So forte is the opposite of piano, so there should be a huge contrast from the beginning. So next we have this symbol here, and this is an accent, which tells you to emphasize the note. A lot of people think that this means you're going to put more pressure on the bow, but that isn't necessarily correct. So how you play an accent is that you're going to add speed onto the bow in the beginning of the note. So I'm going to demonstrate that for you. This is how you would normally play a note. But when you're playing with an accent, you want to emphasize the beginning of the note by adding speed. So in this measure, we're going to add an accent onto the E. So this is how you'd play that. And then the next measure is going to be the same with the D instead. So what you have here are three notes with a 3 under them. These are eighth note triplets. What this means is that you're going to play 3 equal length notes in one beat. So you're basically splitting the beat into 3 equal parts so that each note gets the same length. And finally, you get to a repeat sign. So what this means is that you're going to play the first 3 lines of this piece, and then you're going to go back to the beginning and then play those 3 lines again, and then you would move on. So that's it for the first half of this tutorial, and in the next video I will show you how to play the next 4 lines of this piece. Thank you for watching.